Welcome back to Cognitive Thread. Today, we are going inside one of the most misunderstood corners of the human mind. By the time this video is over, you will never think about how peer pressure works on the adult brain the same way again. Have you ever agreed to something you didn't want to do just because everyone else was doing it? Most people think peer pressure is a teenager problem, but here's what neuroscientists discovered. Your adult brain is actually more vulnerable to it than a teenager's brain is. And the reason why will completely change how you see yourself. Let's start with a scenario that probably feels familiar. You're at a work dinner. Your boss and 4 colleagues are there. Everyone orders an expensive wine. You don't drink wine. You've never liked it. But as the server turns to you, you feel something shift. Your chest gets tight. You notice everyone watching, and without thinking, you say, "I'll have the same." Why did you do that? Most people assume it's weakness, that you don't have enough confidence, but that's not what's happening. What's actually happening is much more interesting. When you're in a group and you're about to do something different from everyone else, your brain triggers something called the anterior insula. This is the part of your brain that processes social pain. And here's the key. Social pain activates the exact same neural pathways as physical pain. To your brain, being different feels like touching a hot stove. It's not a choice you're making. It's a survival instinct. Dr. Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran brain imaging studies where she had people play a virtual ball game. When other players excluded them, the anterior insula lit up like someone had slapped them. The rejection felt real, physical. So when everyone orders the wine and you're about to order sparkling water, your brain is screaming, "This is dangerous." Do what they do. Protect yourself. Now let's try scenario 2. You're at a party. You don't know many people. Someone hands you their phone and says you have to see this conspiracy video about the moon landing. You know it's probably nonsense. You've heard the evidence, but everyone in the room is nodding. They're saying things like, "Yeah, that makes sense." Your instinct is to push back, but you pause. You think, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they know something I don't, and you end up watching the whole video and even liking a comment. What just happened? This is called informational conformity. When you're uncertain about something, you use other people's behavior as information. You assume that if multiple people believe something, it must be true. This is actually a rational survival strategy. Back in ancient times, if the group believed the water from that stream was bad, following their belief kept you alive. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Researchers at Stanford University found that adults are more susceptible to this than teenagers because we have more to lose. A teenager doesn't care if the group thinks they're weird, but you do. You have a job, a reputation, a family. Your brain knows that social exclusion could cost you something real. So your adult brain is doing the math automatically. Is being right about the conspiracy video worth risking my status in this group? Most of the time, your brain answers, no, not worth it. Scenario 3. You're at lunch with people from work. Someone suggests going to a restaurant you've been wanting to avoid. Maybe the service is bad. Maybe you had a weird experience there. But 3 people are enthusiastically saying, "Let's go to Marcus's." You open your mouth to suggest somewhere else, but you notice something. The energy in the group is already committed. They've all agreed. Everyone's excited. You can feel the momentum. If you speak up now, you're the person who kills the vibe. You're the contrarian. You're difficult. So you say, "Yeah, sure, Marcus's is great." This is called normative conformity. It's different from informational conformity. You're not being convinced that Marcus's is actually good. You don't believe that. You're conforming because you want to fit in. You want to be liked. Dr. Solomon Asch ran his famous conformity experiments in the 1950s. He had groups of people look at lines and say which one was longest. Some participants were actually Confederates, actors. When the actors all said the wrong answer, real participants would go along with them about 35% of the time, even though the correct answer was obviously different. But here's what nobody talks about. The conformity was stronger when participants thought the group could see them. When they answered anonymously, they gave correct answers 99% of the time. Your conformity depends on whether you think people are watching, and your adult brain is always assuming people are watching. Scenario 4. You're scrolling through your phone. Everyone on your feed is posting about a new fitness trend. The people you respect, the people you follow, they're all talking about it like it's life-changing. You don't exercise much, but you're seeing this trend everywhere, and there's a subtle pressure building. If everyone is doing this except you, what does that say about you? Are you lazy, behind, not serious about your health? So you download the app, you spend the money, you commit. 2 weeks later, you're bored. You hate it, but you keep going because you've already told people you're doing it. You're already part of that identity now. This is called the spiral of commitment. Dr. Robert Cialdini found that once you publicly commit to something, your brain works to make that commitment consistent with your self-image. You start finding reasons to believe in the thing you're committed to. You're not being manipulated by outside forces. You're being manipulated by your own need to see yourself as consistent. We are almost there, because the reason why you're more vulnerable to peer pressure now than you've ever been involves something that happens in your brain around the age of 25. And it's not what you've been told. Here's what happens. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for reasoning and resisting impulses, it finishes developing around age 25. Scientists used to think that meant you'd become immune to peer pressure, that you'd be fully mature, fully resistant. But that's not what the research shows. What actually happens is this. Your reasoning brain becomes more sophisticated, but your social brain becomes more sensitive. You develop a deeper, more complex understanding of what rejection means. You have more to lose. You have a career to maintain, a reputation that took years to build, relationships that matter more than a teenager's friendships. So your brain starts running more sophisticated cost-benefit analyses. And most of the time, the cost of standing out exceeds the benefit of being authentic. The reason you're more susceptible to peer pressure as an adult is because you have a better understanding of the consequences of rejection. Your brain isn't weaker. It's actually smarter about what's at stake. But this raises a darker question. If your brain is rationally choosing conformity, how much of your actual personality is authentically you versus a calculated performance designed to avoid social cost? That's the part that disturbs researchers, and it's worth thinking about the next time you agree to something you don't actually want to do. So here's the answer to the question I asked at the beginning. You cave to peer pressure as an adult because your brain has learned what rejection actually costs. It's not weakness, it's calculation. But this same mechanism explains something even darker about how you decide who you really are, and why most people never actually question whether their choices are theirs or just echoes of the group. That's coming next.